IDG, and the president of this beautiful and incredible Museum of Tomorrow. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Felipe, first of all, who will give us some opening remarks before we start our panel discussion.
Thank you, Indy. Hello, everyone. I'm Felipe Faria, CEO from the Green Building Council Brazil. I think I'll try to contextualize how important is this project for the green building movement. So first, just some quick informations about what have been happening in Brazil regarding green building movement. So one of our main activities, or the way that real estate recognizes, is the promotions of certifications and how it have been accepted in the real estate market. So most of you know LEED certification, which is certified building in 186 different countries. Brazil is the top 5 largest market for LEED globally. So we have a lot of activities in terms of this kind of certifications. It's about 74 million square meters in 350 cities. In Brazil, we celebrate like the first LEED zero energy building in the world is a project in Brazil. The first LEED zero water in the world is a project in Brazil. The first LEED V5 project in the world is in Brazil. So for this kind of segment, we have a kind of maturity and experience to discuss sustainability in the building sector. But what's our main challenge? The main challenge is the residential sector. Residential sector is the main challenge. Then we need to really understand the priority of residents, to adapt what is the real value proposition for them. And inside the residential sector, the biggest challenge, even biggest, at least for us, is affordable. So most of our projects in the residential, they are still high-end, but then we have some affordable. And why? I think that because behind this movement we have the early adopters, some very innovative developers that can identify how to conciliate comfort, better comfort homes, efficiency, all this kind of green building practice with business model. And to this kind of project that we can say that it's a cutting edge project, then we need the early adopters to make it happen. So, and then one of the examples that we have here in Brazil in terms of affordable is Rio de Janeiro, Comunidade do Aço. It's like retrofitting an informal settlement, where you have here in Brazil the necessity to respect a technical standard about the minimal comfort and comfort for in terms of acoustic, thermal, and lighting. So this kind of standards is already forcing to improve the quality of affordable housing. For them, since it's affordable and people have no money to pay the energy bill, they also are given like the photovoltaic panel to generate 100% of the energy. In a project where the City Hall of Rio de Janeiro are giving all the furniture, because people have no money to buy a bedroom. So the situation sometimes is complicated. So even in affordable homes, we need to divide up different kind of levels of affordability. And in this kind of project, I see like, of course, that I see decarbonization, but I see mainly like comfort. It's very clear message about comfort, air quality, and decentralization. So way that we can generate your energy, the way that you can generate your own food. So I think that the connections with the green building movements that we can present the early adopters for the cutting edge ideas. So thank you very much, and I apologize in advance because I need to leave a little bit earlier, but it's a huge pleasure to be here, and we wait to help to take this project and exhibitions for different cities in Brazil for next year. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you so much, Felipe, for those remarks and for setting up for this panel discussion. So let's go to our speakers now. And I want to start with you, Martina. So Martina, you've been with us from the beginning, from the early stage, from when we started with the ELM in New York City. So my question to you is, from your perspective, what does a program like the ELM, Ecological Living Module, and in particular, this specific ELM in Brazil, represent for the broader conversation around sustainable living, as well as the collaboration that it inspires across sectors?
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And it's a real pleasure being here. And as you said, it takes me back a few years. I've been, when I was heading the cities work in UNEP. And it's a project that is very close to... No, it doesn't work. No. I'm getting a training in how to hold the microphone. Okay, good. So it's something that's very close to my heart because it makes things so visible. For UNEP, obviously you heard the numbers at the outset. There is an energy issue. There is a materials issue as well. How we deal with resources. It is as much climate as it is pollution. How we construct and deconstruct as well. What we do with the waste. So this is sort of where UNEP comes from. And it was a delight having teamed up with the team here because it takes us into a very different space. Because in the end, buildings is not about shelter alone. That would be reducing this too much. It's our homes, and we have to feel fine in it. It has to deliver all the services we need, and that's why I think this project asks the right questions. It starts from the right end, meaning comfort. We need comfort. What are the other needs that we need to satisfy? And I think what we already heard, it's about factoring in how much people can pay for electricity, how much people can pay for food. Can we integrate that? That is really powerful. It's the systems approach that it really encapsulates very well, and all the thinking that goes into it. And I think it's stunning to see its architecture at its finest because there's the iconic value of this as well. You have to make it likable. And when we went to New York, you cannot imagine, what it took in terms of stubbornness on all our side to actually get it there and get it done. But people came in and they were like, this is so beautiful. How can I get one? That was the main reaction we got. And that's what we need to be able to trigger, that people want it. That environment is not less. It's actually better because it serves the purpose and it's beautiful. And maybe I stop with that, but you see, I really feel for this project, and it takes every time into account the local context. And I think that's really, really important as well to keep in mind. So we had a very different look and feel, as you have seen, from Nairobi, from New York to Nairobi. And there it fitted with aspirations of how things look like. And I think that worked well, looking at the materials that are locally available so that we don't create value chains that go across the globe as much, but that really draw on locally available resources. And that makes it very, very interesting as well because that will contribute to creating jobs locally.
Thank you so much, Martina. I remember good memories and hoping we can recreate exactly the same thing here in Brazil. I'm going to you now, Anna. So we know that each ELM builds on lesson from the last. We saw it in New York and in Nairobi. Now we go into Rio. What have been for you the most meaningful outcomes so far, whether it's design, research impact, or collaboration? Can you touch on this, please?
Thank you. Is this good? Perfect. Okay. Obrigada. Okay, I'm going to keep can everybody hear me? I'm going to keep it away from me. Higher.
Like this.
So the biggest surprise, and I think actually Felipe and Martina have touched on it, is, to be honest, we call ourselves lab rats. We're like in the labs all the time at the university developing new systems and new materials. And we're looking at the science of it all the time. But many of us have a background in architecture. And what we discovered more than ever with the Ecological Living Module project is that the whole issue of sustainability is how do we feel? If we don't feel differently, you have to move people spiritually, culturally, emotionally. And when people came into the Ecological Living Module in New York, at the risk of repeating, they just felt really good. It was a way to live with nature. We were working on the first one with Alan Organsky and on the wood-based structures, but it was also, how does it feel when you have natural daylight? How does it feel when you have cool that's not driven by machines and chemicals, but that's actually driven through natural processes? So what we look at, honestly, is how you take sun and humidity and other bioclimatic resources that are right there on site, and how do you transform them biochemically into everything that you need to live on site. And the reason we accepted the United Nations provocation to put a house in New York City at the UN headquarters, they knew that Yale was very committed to low-income housing, and we had been working on housing quite a bit historically. But we accepted their invitation because we wanted to actually also connect to lay people, but also connect to the experts in our field who will tell you that net zero is not possible. Well, certainly it's not possible with existing technologies. We know that. Why would you power an SUV of this type of building with solar or another building? What our frustration as scientists and as engineers and architects was that really true net zero living, or nature-based solutions, if you will, is not about one thing or another. It's about ecosystemic solutions. It's at the nexus of energy, water, food, material life cycle, comfort, how you feel, the fresh air and the thermal comfort. If we work at the nexus of all of these things, we can deliver net zero. So we took the dimensions of a refugee model that UN High Commissioner for Refugees gives 20 square meters for a family of 4, and we took that as a measurement device. How much could you do right on site with 20 square meters in different climates? Well, different climates have different resources. In Belém, we would have so much water, and that's why we designed ELM Brazil for Belém. Actually, initially it was supposed to be here. We're so grateful to the museum to host us in Rio for Climate Week in June. But if you look at the amount of rain that's coming down in Belém, in 20 square meters, we would have a water pavilion, basically. That's why we have the show. We're storing water underneath for the dry season. We can give water to many families, potable water. And what we're showing also with that pavilion is that you can, through plant-based chemistry and solar plant-based chemistry, you can deactivate all viruses and bacteria in 10 minutes. This is super important for informal situations. Billions of people around the world that are depending on things like ceramic filters and other things, and they could deal with the bacteria, maybe with solar water pasteurization. But what is killing children and teenagers in families that we work with in many places around the world is the viruses. So if they're exposed to viruses, they get enteric disease. It takes 30 hours for solar water pasteurization to deactivate all of the viruses. 30 hours is not viable. So what we wanted to do is give something that would be viable. And one last thing before I hand back to Hind, because I'm taking a long time here, but I will just say why do we focus on informality and rural to urban migration and this kind of condition, is because there's so much knowledge that is being lost in rural to urban migration. We talk a lot about people getting stranded in peri-urban or urban conditions, but they have tremendous farming knowledge and knowledge about natural systems and living systems that gets lost because they're in a location that doesn't really allow them, or they don't know how to use their knowledge that is coming from large terrain agriculture and bring it into the cities. So one of the most important principles of Ecological Living Network is new partnerships between the building, agricultural, and farming sectors. If you see that if we intensify the cities with urban agriculture and urban forestry, not only are we dramatically reducing the urban heat island effect, thank you, thank you, Martin, urban heat island effect, and changing energy consumption profiles and cooling profiles and health profiles, biodiversity, et cetera, all of these things, but we're also potentially creating a circular bio-based material economy. So the Inventwood in ELM Brazil and the BAM build, my colleague from University of Sao Paulo hopefully will be arriving very soon. We'll talk about the bamboo. This is urban forestry. It's circular urban forestry. It's not coming from extractive forestry. It's coming, so we are, as Martina said, housing is not about one module. It's about how we live in the world. And so what we're showing is a way to actually have a circular bio-based material economy within urban environments with very fast throughput, small diameter, and urban coppicing and other ways to actually get a lot of biomass in to these very thin products. You can see behind you there that it's a large structure, but the wood is very, very thin. That's a prototype that we were demonstrating because it's pressed at very, very high pressure and with food-based chemistry so that it actually has a strength-to-weight ratio that is stronger than steel. I'm just saying that for the material geeks in the thing. Yeah, well, we just did a video. Just briefly. There's all these images.
Okay, yeah. Okay, let me go to Emmanuel right now. Emmanuel from Saint-Gobain, thank you for being with us today. So Saint-Gobain has been involved in this project. We've been working with your team all across in the US, in Brazil, and you've been contributing to innovative low-carbon glass array as well as acoustical panels fabricated here in Brazil, like for this was Sonex, which is used using post-agricultural byproducts. So from your perspective, what are the key takeaway from an industry like Saint-Gobain from this collaboration? Can you just share some words on that, please?
Okay, so thank you. So first, I remember well our first discussion. It was 2 years ago in New York. Thanks to the UNEP and the Global Alliance. And it was a time where I think we started our relationship. And in all those 2 years, I've been very much impressed. Very impressed by the knowledge, the network, the capacity to push the boundaries, the capacity to rethink many of what makes efficiency in the built environment. And the ecological living module, it's as for a car, a concept car. I mean, it's really pushing the boundaries and opening so many ways in terms of innovation, thinking, particularly what is being said around water management, what is being said around energy management, on circularity. Very glad that there are some products, some of our landmark products that are decarbonized, typically our Orae glass. Orae glass, what is it? We wanted also to push the boundaries and to understand if we can produce a zero carbon glass. And we did it. We did it 3 years ago in a plant in France, where we had a production of flat glass with 100% of recycled glass, 100% of biogas, and renewable electricity. So a flat glass for windows that is zero carbon in scope 1 and 2. And it worked. We did it, and the product is as efficient as a normal product. And then we started to commercialize a bit more than 2 years ago. Not with 100% recycled glass, because it's a bit complicated nevertheless. But we did it with 70% of recycled glass. A glass that has, in life cycle analysis, a reduced carbon footprint of 40% compared to an average glass. That glass called Orae, and combined with our coatings, very efficient in terms of operational carbon mitigation or heat transfer, and very low carbon. I'm very glad that it's being used in the projects that will be launched in Rio, as well as other solutions. It's also for us a kind of pushing the boundaries, showing what it is possible. Orae is selling very well. It's very important development, but very important to bring it holistically in a project.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Emmanuel. I'm going to come back to you, Martina. ELM Brazil, we saw, is part of this broader global shift toward integrating, we heard it, nature, climate, to urban decisions. What do you think is needed to ensure that this kind of innovations move beyond demonstration projects?
Yeah, absolutely. Because as beautiful as they are, if they would stay only as those prototypes, we would have lost out. And how do we get it over the line? How we get these things to scale is one. It starts with showing and telling and growing the community, but it is also every time we have something new, we hit the walls with regard to the frameworks that we work in, and obviously for the building sector, that's building codes. And if building codes are designed too rigidly, i.e. prescribing certain materials, which we know exists, that is a stumbling block. So how do we get out of that? Well, performance-based building codes, standards that actually look at performance, at the outcome, and leave the space for the innovators to come forward with things that work. So that's a key one, and we do work on that quite a bit, getting performance-based building codes into the system. The second is finance. Obviously, prototypes is always more expensive. How do we get the cost down? But not only that, and that comes with having more mass. But how do we help make it affordable? We need different financing mechanisms, and there is a lot of innovation out there as well, but that's a critical piece. Another one is looking at the different business models, and I think that's key as well. We talked about a little bit how we can get local materials into the system. That creates local jobs. That's really important. We have products like the one that we just heard with the glass. That's a more global value chain. How do we align that? So from the small to the big, how do we make sure we have the whole value chain set up for it? And I know that was something we ran into for the Nairobi one, where we said, we have a good idea, we have people who are keen, we had discussions with different universities, there's a university network as well, so training people from the educational side in the first place, so that it becomes their want and that they drive it further, but really building it up is a key piece. I guess certification, we heard a vibrant talk about that already from the Green Building Council. That's a good piece as well. And I want to end on community engagement. That is absolutely critical because it has to work for people in the end. And if we build in the needs, the wants in how we design certain things, then the pickup will be better as well. So I think it's a whole universe that's out there. It shows as well how complicated it is to move something. Because, and we said that, well, right from the start of the Global Alliance for Buildings and Construction, when it started actually in Paris, I just look over to the other side, Accord de Paris, and actually that's where it was founded. And we've come a long way with that as well. But it's bringing all the different players together. So it is from the policymakers to the private sector, the innovators, and we really have to build that. It's a bigger community. That's why it's taking time, but that's why again this iconic value of these projects, because they create the emotions, because they create want, they create thinking beyond. Because if you look at it, it may look simple, but all the thinking, the tech that is behind it, the lab work that is behind it, is key as well. So getting that message out will help.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for letting us all know how we can take this project outside of just presentation for the general public or experts. Let me ask you a question, Anna. So, looking ahead, okay, what are the key innovations and challenges do you hope to explore with ELM Brazil? And what is behind the bigger vision, really? I mean, I think we've heard, but it'll be good if you can reiterate, behind the ELMs and the Ecological Living Network program.
Yeah. Thank you, Hin, for that. Yeah, I think Martina put it perfectly, so I would just add to that the idea of the network is not to come in and out of a site. It's to create a network of collaborators and knowledge across all of these sites and not drop the ball or drop the thread. So this is supposed to galvanize the relationships, right? Ultimately, the relationships are the most important thing. And also, the biggest challenge is, how do we show a scale up? So we will keep always using that one ecological living module, but it's a measurement device. It's to show in a very intimate setting, almost ergonomically at the scale of the human being, how can we live with nature or interface with nature, but we have to show housing, plural, ING, which is why, and we're so honored to have the leader of the Green City, Ville Verte, in Dakar, Senegal would be an example, or another location where we might scale up would be in Gosan, in the informal settlements in Lima, Peru, so that we can show 10 houses, 100 houses. Because when you start to show a scale up, then you really start to show the metabolism. We call it urban metabolism. We use the term metabolism very, very maliciously because we are talking about the metabolism of living systems, and which are human systems, obviously. But at the scale of, let's say, at least 100 or hopefully 1,000, getting to a little bit bigger, we can then really show everything. We can show waste cycles. We can show really urban agriculture at scale. We can show urban forestry at scale. We can show the types of loops that you need. So that's where we're partnering with many informal settlements. I mentioned Gosan as one, which we're hoping to scale up in Lima in 2028. We're also hoping to be in Morocco and in West Africa, hopefully, bientôt. So.
Coming to you, Emmanuel, and I'd like to also hear from your point of view, what does it take from an industry, a leader like Saint-Gobain, to scale up this type of prototypes?
So I'm not sure that we will scale up the prototype. What will scale up are the ideas that are behind the prototype. I mean, it's what I say again. It's pushing the boundaries, helping us. Why? I mean, why does it make sense to work with ELM on that? I mean, we have lots of innovation capabilities within Saint-Gobain. So you may say, okay, we don't need ELM. No, I mean, an innovation, we need partnership. We need to open our eyes. We need to have different point of views. I mean, the network that ELM is having, very local. I mean, we talked a lot around local solutions. I mean, an organization as Saint-Gobain is not able to catch, and is always by nature a bit conservative, a bit incremental in the way the innovation is being done. The disruption that ELM is bringing us, that is feeding us very strongly, it's really that idea of concept, pushing the boundaries, making, and a lot will come. I mean, obviously not. I mean, I don't imagine to live in the in the ELM, but I mean, there's lots of core ideas that are critical and that will drive the way solutions will be designed in the future.
Great. Thank you so much, Emmanuel. You know, this is what we like to think. You know, we are also having this type of prototypes to spark discussions, conversations. I'd like to, we have 5 minutes, and I would like to invite Ricardo Piquet, who can tell us also what is the importance, why are we bringing that type of ELM in the museum, and what the benefits of having this type of ELM in the Museum of Amaya.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Of course, I have some words to say this morning. First of all, because this kind of project is a dream for us, because the Museum of Tomorrow was created 10 years ago, and trying to show for the whole audience how we can live in harmony of the planet. The first and the main purpose of this museum was created by this sense. And of course, when we invited the architect Santiago Calatrava, we asked him to think about how we can build one, and we have a lead certification for the building, and now we are looking for to have the certification to operate. And so, from this sense, we have a lab inside of Museum of Tomorrow, and we will be very proud to host these projects from June the next year. And actually, I'd like to suggest that to install these projects and stay there for a year, because from this opportunity we can connect with different projects in our city, Rio de Janeiro, and throughout the country as well. And we'd love to show how we can provide some project like this with principle with the poor people, like in favela. We have 500 meters far from the museum. We have the first favela in Brazil, favela of Providence. And you know how we can offer one experience like this inside the favela. And beside that, we have another project in São Paulo, that's Museum of Favelas. Then we connect with all the organization in our country to discuss, to debate how rich the life inside the favela in terms of social technology. And so we can connect the both sides from the Museum of Tomorrow and the Museum of Favela to show, of course, depends on the cost to implementation, but more than that, how cost it to maintain this project. And so it's a pleasure for us, and I'd like to hear something about you, what you think about this period, 1 year, and how to create another opportunity in some favelas in Brazil. And just for ending, this project lies beside the museum in the garden designed by the architect and urbanism in Brazil, Burle Marx. And so I think it's totally in harmonize of the building and the purpose of our museum. Thank you.
Well, firstly, we would be infinitely grateful to you for a 1-year residency, because one of the most important things also is data over time, to show how this is over the whole year, because the climate, as you know, any climate is not going to be the same from one day to the next. The weather changes. And so to be able, I should just say we are working with many universities and national labs, both in Brazil, the United States, and other countries. And we will have people from as far away as Queensland coming to take data there at the ELM. So to have a whole year is such a gift. Secondly, to be able to connect with as many public, as you said, because really when we take the data, we're not just taking the data on technology, we're also taking data from people. It's social, it's biophysical, etc. So the last thing I just want to leave with on that, why 1 year would be such a gift, is because ultimately it's an open architecture. We're technology agnostic. Even if we're developing scientific methodologies and technologies, we would be able to compare and contrast many approaches to thermal comfort, to air quality, to water remediation. And we would like to compare and contrast over that time so we can bring more people in and invite more people in if we have more time. So this is just a huge gift. Thank you.
Would you like to say the last word?
Yes. Of course, I forgot to thank you, Anna and Martina from the UN Environment Program, to be a part of this. Of course, we'd like to go deep in this sense and building the best solution for our city, for our country together. And so let's start. And one more time, thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. What an honor. Thank you, Ricardo, for your points. I think we may have time for maybe 1 or 2 questions. I think we are over time, but let's take this opportunity.
Hi everyone, Scott Francisco from Pilot Projects in Canada. Last night at the Sango event, there was a great statement that I think is relevant here, and that is, how do we address the self-building sector, which I think we could say is more or less synonymous with the informal housing and we're speaking about here. And that really stuck with me, because you can just picture people making decisions based on the available resources, the materials, the skills that they have, etc. And what we see is the result of the constraints. It's very clear. So clearly part of it is just meeting people where they're at with their ability to access materials, skills, ideas, and maybe the prototype is one of the ways we can reach people with new ideas, but they're not likely to go and build this prototype in most favelas around the world at this point in time, but they might be inspired to take some of the ideas forward. There's a bird called the Bowery bird. If you haven't seen it, you should look it up. But it's a bird that builds, basically the male bird builds a house and fills it with blue objects to attract a mate. It's a very useful systemic understanding of what drives us, right? So this bird is driven by making a beautiful house filled with blue objects to attract a mate. What is it that is going to drive the cultural change? And perhaps we're thinking in the wrong areas sometimes when we think about, well, if people just knew that climate change was a problem, they would start using different materials. But what makes it cool for a young person to do something different, to take a risk, to actually put in the extra effort, to learn the skills that they didn't have about a new material? I mean, the systemic aspect of this is so rich, and the informal sector becomes a laboratory to really, really test what's possible. So I just put that as an encouragement. Everyone should look up the Bowery bird, because it's an amazing story of nature and how building a house can be transformative.
Yes, I think your point is essential, Scott, and this ELM, much more than the prior ones, will be actually addressing a DIY context. So we might surprise you. I mean, it is true that there's certain structural principles that we want to kind of demonstrate because it's a novel material. But we have many systems. What we learned in Nairobi is when we showed on-site 3D printing from solar-based means. This was very, very exciting and very galvanizing, and we left our machines with our university partners at Kenyatta and Nairobi, and it galvanized a whole area for them of waste to building materials research there. We will show on-site, for example, the solar system. We decided to go with a DIY that starts, you only need, to get started, you need $5. $5, another $5, another $5. It's a solar fabric that you have very, very small modules, and you keep adding to it as you have the money. So we show the relationship between devices like cell phones or refrigerators or whatever, and the amount of fabric that you have. That's one example. Another example is with the solar water. The solar water is very, very low cost corrugated plastic. We are going to be introducing Ore, a solar guard underneath, and some very advanced systems from the Saint-Gobain group to show the modulation of light, but it's not required for the base system. All that's required for the base system are the growing of certain vegetables and the type of concentration ratio that we're going to be putting into a very low cost plastic sheeting. I have many other examples, but really this is a pavilion that will be designed for scale up of very low cost DIY technologies. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Anna. So we are running out of time. Thank you so much for our incredible line of speakers. Thank you for sharing your insights. We hope to see you all at the Museum of Amaya in June 2026. And hopefully it's going to be there for maybe 1 year. Who knows? It's going to be traveling. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you.
Hello, good morning, everyone. We will start the finance session in 5 minutes. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Sorry. Is this a good distance? We will be facilitating A short demonstration of the construction collage game. We are a French NGO that communicates about the sustainability issues in the construction sector. The game is going to happen in the networking area just here. Please feel welcome to participate.
Wir haben eine Frage und hinterher noch so ein Round of all. Ja, das ist auch gut. Ja, ja, das ist so.
Not at all. I'm just waiting for Anna. Hello. Already in March.
We changed the building codes.
Sorry, we need to start the next.
Thank you. Sorry, we're interrupting. Yes. Okay.
On peut mal tourner quoi.